Welcome back to the John Linetia Show.
Linetia, are you paranoid that the government is spying on you?
Nope. Sorry.
Why not?
Why not? You know, my basic feeling is if you have something to hide, this is why you're in an uproar right now. I don't even think this is surprising. Do you really think that you could just do whatever and the government wasn't going to be able to find out, or they don't have any ways to find out?
Wait. So you would have no problem if the government is spying on everybody?
Nope.
Because you have nothing to hide?
Correct.
How do you know you have nothing to hide? How do you know that the government wouldn't look at something you're doing and come, because that's the whole point of, of liberty, of being in a democratic society with theoretically a government that allows its citizens to be, free. Okay. You're not, you're in a dictatorial regime, and everybody is on edge because the government might, in order to eliminate its enemies and stuff, trump up charges. So I don't see why are you okay with that?
I'm fine with that. I'm fine. It doesn't affect me one way or the other.
What if it did all of a sudden? But in theory, wouldn't it?
No.
So even if it did, what if it did affect you? Would you still be okay?
In what way? Like they're listening to my conversation, all of a sudden they assume I'm a terrorist.
Maybe.
Then they could investigate.
Maybe they're looking at your bank
see...
account and they're wondering, wait a minute, why do there's two bank accounts and there's money going in one and coming out another? Maybe she's laundering money.
I think that they know, or that there are signs that they probably have a check and balances type system where they would know if something is, illegal or not.
Well, it doesn't appear that the government has a checks and balances system with the new things coming out of the allegations, the stuff coming out of the National Security Agency, where essentially the government is using, basically phone records and even internet searches and things like that to
they can't really do the internet right now. They're still kind of
they're building a
through
facility.
that. Yeah, they can't really do that.
But it's interesting because it's like the government has a machine like the one in the TV show Person of Interest, that it's basically kind of keeping track of everybody.
Okay.
It's like fiction coming to fact.
Why is this surprising?
Well, that's the interesting thing is people who are like, oh my goodness, the government's doing this, and I guess ultimately this came out because of trying to get phone records from Verizon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but this stuff was this act was going on when Bush was in office.
Well,
What's
that's the thing is shortly after 9/11, when everybody was freaked out. Okay, even I was freaked out. For a while. Everybody was just like, ah! You had basically the Republicans in the office at the time. Rumsfeld and Cheney and George W. Bush, I forget about him. Basically, it had come up, with the Patriot Act.
Correct.
Of course, they call it the Patriot Act because at the time, if you didn't agree with them, you were not being patriotic. You were being anti-American. It was very, very McCarthyism kind of type situation. But they had all of these things that essentially really were taking away freedoms and giving government the right to spy on the American public, because there were laws against this. Okay. So ultimately, the Patriot Act allowed this, and then later on, there's an act called FISA, a law that actually was used for the court issued for Verizon.
Correct.
The FISA had been kind of amended to allow essentially the government to
get the phone record,
to get the data collection. And it's weird because all of a sudden it's coming to light and people are going crazy. Now, I remember when the Patriot Act came to be. There were a decent amount of liberals kind of going, well, wait a minute, what? What's going on here? But the country at the time, even those, Democrats, those liberal, everybody was on the side of well, we have to do whatever we can to stop terrorism. And the idea was, well, if we have to take away a little bit of freedom, then so be it, which of course is a completely anti-American attitude.
But at the same time, they have to do something to combat this. And even since the Patriot Act has been instilled, they have combated a lot of terroristic things, and they have caught people.
Yeah, but you don't know, to what extent, because of all these new, essentially, ways of eroding our liberties. So it becomes a question of, well, is it still America if you're not free? Is it still America if the government is always watching you and keeping a database of you? I mean, it's kind of creepy.
That doesn't bother me. I could care less. I could care less because I'm just one of those people who don't find it very important because I have nothing to hide. You can gather all my phone records. All you're going to see is me talking to my husband and my sister all the time. I could care less about that. That doesn't bother me. What I do care about is my safety in this country. And if there's such a big problem with this country, why do people keep coming here? Obviously, we have more freedoms here than other people have in other countries. So obviously, we live in a great country.
So you're saying that even though we have less freedoms than we did before 9/11, that we're still in good shape?
We're fine. I think we live in a society where we can do almost anything. We can say anything we want and not even get in trouble about it. It's not like that in other countries. You could say some things and they'll kill you. You could steal something and they'll cut your hands off. It's just not that way in other countries. This is why people are dying to come here.
Yeah, but I still think things were better off before. And I
Really?
think we could have, the government spying on our own citizens, okay?
It's just a freaking phone record.
Well, it starts with one, thing, and we don't know what else they've done.
Okay, what else can they do? Do you have any other suggestions on how to combat terrorism? I want to hear one.
Yeah, spy on terrorists.
But that's the purpose of this, to help thwart this, to help find people who may be terrorists, potential terrorism. Mm-hmm. That's the purpose. I have no problem with this.
I think the thing that is kind of, to me, it's amusing to me is that everybody, those people that are all like, oh my goodness, the government spying and all this. When I do remember, vast majority of people were in favor of the Patriot Act.
Yes.
And it's like, wait a minute, all of a sudden, and really, so what is it? Essentially what we're talking about is 12 or 13 years later, now all of a sudden everybody's like, wait a minute, maybe this wasn't such a good idea.
Right. So we've completely forgotten about what happened with 9/11.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of it's gone. It's far enough in the past now that it almost doesn't seem real to certain people. Mm-hmm. And, then they look at this and go, well, wait a minute, maybe we need to change this. When, in fact, at the time, it was going too far. It was going too far. You don't need a government spying on you. You don't need the government getting phone records. The only people in this country that, that essentially are safe from the NSA spying, the Amish.
Right, because they have no technology. Right, pretty much. We also need to say that, Verizon was named, but there are other phone companies involved. So,
like Boost Mobile.
And anybody else who's out there.
Yeah.
That's one thing. The other thing is, this started during the Bush era. It has continued in the Obama era. And for the first time, and I've never heard this before, and I was absolutely shocked to hear this, that our Speaker of the House is actually behind Obama with this. He actually said, I'm behind the president. Mr. John Boehner himself.
Well, you know why? That's because...
I can't believe it.
That's because, sadly, Barack Obama has chosen to continue and augment a lot of the programs that George W. Bush started, including things that Obama even said himself that he was discontinuing.
It's hard to try to discontinue things when nobody's working with you.
When you've got, you just said it though. If John Boehner says, he's behind the president on this, you got to distrust that, okay?
Not in this situation.
That crazy, strangely colored man talks about how he thinks.
Is he from Jersey?
Yeah, well, I don't know. He's from somewhere, but ultimately, by him saying that, you got to look at that and go, wait a minute, this is probably not a good thing then.
This doesn't bother me. Don't get me wrong now. John Boehner's kind of strange.
Yeah.
Weird, actually. But, I mean, this doesn't bother me. Not at all. It doesn't bother me because I don't have a problem with them trying to figure out ways to combat terrorism. I mean, and there might be some other things out there that we don't even know that's happening. But I don't have a problem with this in protecting this country. It doesn't bother me. And I see some people can't keep their mouth shut about it because no one would have even thought about it until Mr. Edward Snowden came out, who used to work for the CIA.
Yeah.
And now he's hiding in Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mr. Big Man, if you wanted to go ahead and be the league, why don't you just come on and talk back to the country and talk about it? But no, you're hiding in Hong Kong. No. Why? Because you're scared you're going to go to prison, and you will for
treason.
Yes. So whatever, Mr. Edward Snowden. I don't think it was a good idea for you to say anything. I would never say anything, and then next thing you know, I'm in prison for government secrets. And it's not the only secret. None of this stuff is surprising to me. If something else comes out, it won't be surprising to me. It's the government. But I don't focus on stuff like that. So I don't have a problem with them trying to protect me. That's their job. President Obama is the head of this country, and he has to do what he can to protect us. So that doesn't bother me.
All right. Thanks for listening to the John and Linetia Show.